The Owl House is set to return for its third and final season on Saturday, October 15th. And with the end drawing near, you know what that means. It's time to look back on the entire series and rank all 40 episodes! All 40 of them. At first I thought, wait, ranking all 40 episodes of your favorite show seems like a pretty daunting task. Then I saw a video where LS Mark reviewed and then ranked all 532 episodes of SpongeBob. You know, I suppose any ranking is easy compared to that. Either way, I'm up to the task. The Owl House has easily become one of my all-time favorite shows. Dana Terrace and her team have done an exceptional job bringing this wonderfully fun and messed up world to life, striking a chord with countless fans like myself. And now that I've refreshed my memory on all the episodes, it's time to see how I rank every one of them from worst to best. A couple notes before we get started. This ranking is based on my most recent rewatch, which means it will reflect how my thoughts and feelings have changed over time. Feel free to check out my previous Owl House rankings if you want to see how they compare to this one. Just remember that this is only my opinion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your top 5 or top 10 episodes, or your ranking for the entire series if you're brave enough. Okay, I think that about covers everything, and we've got a lot of episodes to get through. So, without any further ado, let's see how I rank all 40 episodes of The Owl House from worst to best.
And look, there's a baby fox in his beard.
Kicking things off in last place at number 40, we have Season 1, Episode 2, Witches Before Wizards. I know there are a couple other episodes that you'd expect to be in last place, but this has always been the episode that I've enjoyed the least. Witches Before Wizards is one of the few episodes that I would consider to be a rough episode. Not necessarily bad, just not quite up to snuff compared to the rest of the show. Taking place immediately after Episode 1, this episode focuses on Luz's first day really living in and exploring what Bonesborough has to offer. Whereas the first episode felt like a fantasy story come true, this episode is a harsh reality check for Luz, and by the end she has to learn to forge her own path in this strange new world. And while I can appreciate that sentiment, the early episodes suffered from their messages being stated flat out rather than being woven naturally into the story. Episode 2 also suffers from what I call second episode-itis. While the first episode introduces everything, the second episode has to be the one to do the opposite and challenge everything that was established in the first. This was also an episode where Luz doesn't feel quite as consistent with how she would be portrayed in the rest of the series, which isn't a huge deal, it just took them a couple episodes for her character to be perfected. Witches Before Wizards isn't a bad episode, it's just my personal least favorite.
No more weirdness. That doesn't count, right?
In second to last place, at number 39, we have Season 1, Episode 1, A Lying Witch and a Warden, the series premiere of The Owl House, the episode that hooked us and sent us on an adventure with Luz Noceda and her friends. And while that makes this a special episode that I look back on fondly, there's really no denying that it pales in comparison to what the show would become. The episode suffers from many of the same problems as Witches Before Wizards. Luz is portrayed just a little differently than how she would be in the rest of the show. The messages are a bit too on the nose, and the writing is pretty mediocre at times. But this episode does get bumped up a spot because it has quite a bit of charm. It's still the fun first adventure, getting to see the Boiling Isles for the first time through Luz's eyes. And while the episode's message does have to be stated flat out, it's still a good message, one that I really connected with when I started watching the show. We also managed to get some pretty incredible moments. The opening sequence with Azura fighting the dragon was epic and hilarious in only 22 seconds. Ida getting her head cut off by the guy who asks her out showed how hilariously messed up the humor would be in this show. And the animators got to show off in Ida's duel with Warden Wrath, giving us a glimpse at the incredible duels that would come in later episodes. So while it ranks low in comparison to the rest of the show, A Lying Witch and a Warden is still a very fun episode, and without it, there would be no Owl House.
Wow, I keep stepping on a lot of crunchy twigs.
Those are bones, Willow.
Not if I never look down.
Next at number 38, we have Season 1, Episode 10, Escape of the Palisman. Throughout this video, you'll find I tend to look at 3 factors when ranking episodes. 1. How good is the main plot? 2. How good is the B plot? And 3, how well do both plots come together? Unfortunately, Escape of the Palisman doesn't excel in any of these categories. It is cool getting an episode that focuses on Luz and Albert's relationship, but I'm honestly not crazy about the Bat Queen in this episode. She does have a right to be upset and confrontational with Luz, but I much prefer how she's portrayed later in season 2. King using the Owl Beast to take over a playground is an okay side plot, but not really anything special. The episode does set up a nice mystery about who the Bat Queen's owner was, and it foreshadows that the elixirs won't stop the curse anymore, but otherwise it's more of an okay episode.
And jelly beans!
Jelly beans!
They're lethally delicious.
At number 37, we have Season 1, Episode 6, Hootie's Moving Hassle. I actually don't have too much to say about this episode. Just like Escape of the Palisman, the main plot is interesting enough, with Luz, Willow, and Gus animating an entire house, but the side plot isn't all that interesting or thematically connected to the main plot. Tibbles isn't a bad character or anything, he's just not one of the more interesting villains of the show. Of course, this episode gave us the first tidbits about Willow's past friendship with Amity, and we got some really cool action with Luz and the gang taking down the demon hunters. Again, not a lot to say for this one, so let's keep moving.
$1 million. Yep, I just counted to 1 million.
At number 36 is Season 1, Episode 14, Really Small Problems. It seems fitting that both of Tibble's Season 1 episodes ended up side by side. I kept going back and forth between this one and Episode 6, but Really Small Problems has a few things that give it an edge. This is one of the best Luz and King episodes, and I love how their dynamic always brings out the best in Luz, like she just naturally settles into big sister mode. Tibbles is also a little better this time around. He gets to be over-the-top evil, and his plan is a little more threatening since he has a much bigger advantage over the characters. The episode is pretty fun overall, and I really like the music featured in the montage scenes. However, the episode does have a few problems that stuck out to me on rewatch. I really hate to say it, but Willow and Gus kind of annoyed me this episode. I just didn't like the way they treated King, especially once it's clear that they should both know better. This could have been fixed if they had learned to understand King's feelings after being small themselves, but King is the only one who ends up apologizing. So yeah, this episode is a little better than Hootie's Moving Hassle, but not one of my personal favorites.
You couldn't afford me, sister. That's the incorrect reaction!
Next at number 35, we have Season 1, Episode 8, Once Upon a Swap. I know this is the episode that a lot of fans automatically put in last place, and I can definitely understand why, but what can I say? I've actually really come to like this episode. Sure, it's not very cohesive, and it feels more like a collection of shorts than an actual episode, but that's also where its charm comes from. It's a fun premise having our main characters take each other's places and seeing what they get up to. I was almost tempted to put it a few spots higher on the list until I remembered some of the things that still annoy me. I wasn't crazy about trying to put Lilith into a mostly comical one-off episode. Lilith's interactions with Ida always feel meaningful throughout the rest of the season, so dropping some big hints about Ida's past and having Lilith unable to recognize what should be obvious just doesn't totally work for me. This is another episode where the characters have to flat out say what the lesson is, and while I can appreciate them using it for a laugh, it also makes it feel like the message didn't carry that much weight. This is reinforced when the characters have seemingly learned nothing at the end, so it doesn't really feel like the episode contributes anything to the overall season. That being said, this is still a really fun episode, and of course we get the best scene in the entire show.
Yeah, this side gets it.
Jokes aside, I do acknowledge that objectively this episode should probably be lower, but this is my ranking, and I've come to enjoy Once Upon a Swap a lot more with time.
Wait, where's Gary? Coming. No!
At number 34 is Season 1, Episode 7, Lost in Language. This one may shock some people, since Luz and Amity are tied for my favorite character. You'd think pretty much all of their episodes would be high on the list. I guess it's because we've gotten even more Lumity episodes that have surpassed this one. It's also another case where the side plot is nowhere near as interesting as the main plot, so that probably brings it down a bit as well. Now that's not to dismiss all the things I still love about this episode. Of course I always love seeing seeing Luz and Amity, and it was awesome seeing them have to team up and save each other at the end. This was a big episode for them, with Amity finally letting go of her attitude towards Luz, and they're finally friends the next time we see them. We're also introduced to the Blight twins, and while they're a bit more unlikable compared to later episodes, they're still very entertaining characters. Their behavior also gives us a glimpse at Amity's home life, providing more context as to why she acts the way she does, and foreshadows how dysfunctional her family is. The episode's premise is also incredibly fun. There are so many episodes where I'd love to be in Luz's place, and being able to bring any story or idea to life is absolutely one of those times. Lost in Language may not stand up as well compared to later Lumity episodes, and the side plot drags it down a little, but it's still an episode I look back on fondly.
You bring the razzle, I'll bring the dazzle.
Do you always have confetti on you, or...?
Then at number 33 is Season 1, Episode 9, Something Ventured, Someone Framed. Just like Lost in Language, this is another episode I have a soft spot for because I'd love to be in Luz's place. Well, not the being oblivious to the horrible danger you're in, but getting to be the only human at a club dedicated to all things human. As for the episode itself, it's nice getting to have some more focus on Gus. I like seeing more of his friendship with Luz, as well as a peek into his insecurities about being so young compared to everyone else. I also really like Ida's subplot. It's actually really heartwarming that she'd go out of her way to make Luz happy, given her attitude towards Hexside in previous episodes, and we get a ton of laughs along the way. I'd say the weakest part of the episode is Mathalamule. He definitely serves his purpose as a foil to Gus, but he's also an annoying little... whatever. And unlike Amity in the first few episodes, who was both entertaining and had some redeemable qualities, Mathalamule just irritated me, and at the time it didn't seem like he had any redeeming qualities to speak of. Apart from that, this was a good episode for Gus and for Luz, and it felt so satisfying to see her finally get into Hexside, now able to learn magic alongside her friends throughout the rest of the season.
Boiling rains, remember?
No, let it try. It'll be funny.
At number 32, we have Season 1, Episode 4, The Intruder. One thing I really like about this episode is that it's one of the more focused episodes of Season 1.
Luce, pay attention.
There's no less interesting subplot, the action is centered on our main trio, and each of their respective struggles come together at the end. Similar to Really Small Problems, I like seeing the sibling dynamic emerge between Luz and King, and how much it means to him to spend time with her. We also get some great world building for how magic works, the place of demons on the Boiling Isles, and of course learning about Ida's curse. I love seeing Luz discover her first spell, and I couldn't wait to see what she would learn next. It feels a little weird to rank an episode this low when I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Just another example of a good episode being surpassed by others.
Will you sign my child?
I'll sign anything!
And at number 31, we have Season 1, Episode 11, Sense and Insensitivity. This is another one I almost put higher on the list because I have a soft spot for the premise. I like seeing Luz and King work together to write a book, and it always makes me want to get back into creative writing mode. But ultimately, it places here because it's mainly just a fun episode. Entertaining, to be sure, with the characters in both plots learning something valuable, but still mainly a fun episode. Still, we get more of that great dynamic with Luz and King, as well as a side quest with Ida and Lilith. And unlike Lilith's appearance in Once Upon a Swap, this episode feels more meaningful because it shows how much the Clawthorne sisters still care about each other despite the paths they've chosen. This helps to make their inevitable confrontation even more tragic, so the episode gets points for being entertaining and adding to the larger narrative. I also really like the episode's message about writers and content creators being pressured to meet unrealistic deadlines, which only causes burnout and disappointment. That's something I really related to, as I tend to put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself, but I'm sure this was Dana and her team taking a jab at the industry as a whole, especially for working animation teams to the bone. So yeah, it's an episode I have a soft spot for, but there are other episodes that I liked just as well. Man, we're only 10 episodes in and I'm already talking about episodes that I connect to on a personal level. How am I supposed to rank 30 more episodes?
So you two go to the same school now. That doesn't change anything. Huh?
Moving on to the next group of 10, at number 30 we have Season 1, Episode 13, The First Day. This is another episode where Luce's struggle really speaks to me personally. Like Luce in this episode, I have many interests I want to explore, and it's hard for me to choose just one to focus on. I also remember the anxiety of being placed in a college major I wasn't crazy about, my schedule overloaded with nothing but classes related to that major, before I was able to then switch to a program that suited me better. This episode was also special because we finally get to see Luce go to Hexside and start learning magic, even if it gets off to a rocky start. And that is one thing that drags the episode down a bit. I know you're supposed to be mad at Bump and that the system at Hexside is supposed to seem dumb, but man can it be irritating at times. I mean, come on, a student makes one mistake and they're stuck literally doing nothing for an entire semester. What possible purpose does that serve? So that's my one real gripe with the episode, but otherwise I like most of what we get. The Troublemakers are a great new set of characters, ones I wish we'd gotten a little more of, and having King be a substitute teacher was pretty funny. Seeing Luce get to study every kind of magic at the end was so satisfying, and an animation highlight of Season 1. The reveal that Ida also wanted to study every kind of magic was a great moment of connection for her and Luce. That's one of my favorite parts of the show, that Luce and Ida seem so different but actually have way more in common than you'd think at first glance. So while this episode is a bit lacking in some aspects, as a whole it's still really good.
I'll distract them with illusions of beautiful lady guards.
This isn't a cartoon from the 40s, Gus.
Then at number 29, we have our first Season 2 episode on the list with Episode 2, Escaping Expulsion. I was surprised that a Lumity episode ended up being the lowest Season 2 episode, but I guess it didn't hold up quite as well for me this time around. The biggest highlight of the episode is getting to see Amity's parents in the flesh. Odalia is a fantastic villain despite how much you hate her by the end of the episode, and showing Alador as the slightly more sympathetic parent was unexpected but interesting. It was great getting to see Amity finally stand up to her mom and fight for her friends. This was also a big turning point for Luce and Amity. The first half of Season 1 was about Luce trying to impress Amity, the second half was about Amity being crazy for Luce, and now they're both blushing at the same time. Despite all that, the episode does have a couple things that weighed it down for me. Just like really small problems, and I hate to say it again, but Willow and Gus were kind of annoying at times this episode. Now, they didn't do anything wrong this time around, it's just a matter of me nitpicking. This is another episode where the side plot plays a role as well. Ida was also kind of annoying this episode, having her constantly ignore common sense and mess up with the glyph combos. But I did love Lilith this episode, and it was cool to see her save the day and reveal the full extent of what glyph combos can do. I do still really like this episode, just not as much as I used to.
That's rough, buddy.
On the flip side, at number 28 is Season 2, Episode 1, Separate Tides. This is a Season 2 episode I actually liked a lot more this time around. It may be the season transition episode that sets the stage for more interesting stuff, but even so, it's still a really good episode. It's great to see the fallout from everything that happened in the Season 1 finale and how each of the characters are dealing with it. This is another fantastic episode for Luz and Ida specifically, with both of them going out of their way to try and help the other, even if it gets them into trouble. Ida's speech about how great her life is for knowing Luz had me wanting to cry as well. On top of that, having an episode at sea was a breath of fresh air, getting to explore the area outside the Boiling Isles. Luz and Ida's sailor outfits are great, by the way. We also get to see the Golden Guard in action for the first time, and I love his interactions with Luz and Ida, especially knowing how his arc will play out later on. There's even a great side plot with Lilith and Hootie. I don't think any of us saw that coming, but their friendship ends up being one of the highlights of Season 2. Like I said, the only thing really holding this episode back is that it's kind of a transition episode, but it's still a lot of fun and does a good job setting the stage for the rest of Season 2.
You know that Ida gets that stuff from the night market, right?
Are you my mother?
Because that is an awful lot of judgment.
At number 27 is Season 2, Episode 4, Keeping Up Appearances. The episode where we finally got to meet Ida's mom after being teased almost exactly 1 season ago. This is kind of a weird episode, where it's not one of the most fun to rewatch, but I really appreciate the message that it's going for. That's something the Owl House as a whole deserves credit for, being able to tackle really serious subject matter by creatively incorporating it into the world of the show. Gwendolyn is a very interesting character. You spend a good portion of the episode really annoyed with her, but you also see how dedicated she is to helping Ida. She's just so desperate for answers that she falls prey to scammers who offer false promises, which is always a good thing to be reminded of in today's world. The episode also has some nice bits of backstory and foreshadowing, like Ida finding the portal in a place behind her house she never knew about, setting up the mystery of who put it there and why. We learn that another human once lived in Bonesboro and may have answers to get Luz home, and we get just a hint about Ida's strained relationship with her dad. This is also another great episode for Lilith, giving her a chance to really understand the weight of Ida's curse and her relationship with her mother. And I actually like that Lilith leaves at the end. It seemed like she would be a regular resident of the Owl House for the entire season, but having her leave shows how things can change for the characters at different times throughout the story. This episode may not be my go-to for a rewatch, but there's still a lot to appreciate.
Oh, picking up Amity? Nah, looks like you got that covered.
At number 26, we have Season 2, Episode 5, Through the Looking Glass Ruins. This was another good episode for Gus, giving us a chance to focus on his problems and even have him go on a quest of his own. It's interesting to see how certain kinds of magic are looked down upon, which would continue to be explored in other episodes. And bonus, any side plot focusing on Lumity is bound to get a pass in my book. I like how the new characters from Glandis are handled in this episode. They're initially friendly and likable, with Bartholomew being the mean and annoying one, like you'd expect. But then we gradually see that they're also a bunch of bullies, and we learn that Bartholomew was pushed around a lot while he was at Glandis. I mentioned before how it didn't seem like Bartholomew had any redeeming qualities, so it was a nice surprise to see it happen by the end, with him and Gus actually becoming friends. Sort of. And I can't go without mentioning all the Lumity stuff. These two are so adorable every time they're on screen, but they also get some really touching and emotional moments. I have to give the team credit for how they perfectly captured Luz's emotional state after she thinks she screwed everything up. We also got Amity's new haircut, another step in her development, and of course the first Lumity kiss, which I know for a fact we were all screaming about the first time we watched it. This episode manages to strike a nice balance between its two storylines and has some really nice character development all around.
Are you okay? Where's your other arm?
I only ever had 2, Hootie. Did you think I had more?
At number 25 is Season 2, Episode 17, Edge of the World. This is an episode that has a really strong beginning, a really strong ending, but is mostly just a fun episode throughout the middle. King's dream sequence at the beginning was so heartwarming and adorable, and Luz's reaction to the events of the previous episode was gut-wrenching and sad. After that, it transitions a bit quickly into a more lighthearted side quest episode about finding King's family. Still, it was really cool getting to see the Titan Trappers and all the lore that comes with it. And the fact that it is a more fun, lighthearted episode makes the reveal more impactful when you realize just how messed up this episode is. I mean, King spent the day bonding with the very clan that wiped out his kind while they're wearing the bones of dead Titans. Once we get to that point, the episode goes back to being great. We learn that King is the last living Titan, which has major implications for the end of the season, and we get some great emotional scenes in the process. The episode then ends on a cliffhanger that wouldn't be resolved for 2 episodes, and as frustrating as that was, it at least builds up the anticipation.
Granted wisdom grants us speech. We desire more.
Cool, talking Congrats!
Next at number 24, we have Season 2, Episode 10, Yesterday's Lie. Now let me clarify before I say this that I think this is a great episode, full of powerful sequences and emotional moments, but before the second half of Season 2 premiered, I would often stop watching the show at Episode 9 because this episode's ending is a bit of a bummer. But like I said, there's a lot to love here. Luz traveling through reflections in that strange dimension is really cool, and having her spend a lot of time back in the human realm was a nice change of pace. We get the answer to the creepy Luz mystery that had been building up for a while, and it comes in the form of V, a great new addition to the show. I like getting to learn more about her life, and it gives us some great moments between her and Luz. This was also where Luz's mom finally learns the truth about everything, and while she did get on board with it a little quicker than I'd have expected, we still get that final moment between her and Luz. It really is one of the most powerful moments in the series, making us wonder what choice Luz will eventually have to make when she finds a way back home. The episode may end on a low note, which especially sucked when the show went on hiatus, but it absolutely sticks with you long after you're done watching it.
Yeah! All hail Lulu!
Then at number 23 is Season 2, Episode 12, Elsewhere and Elsewhen. As much as I enjoy this episode, it's also one I have some mixed feelings on. On the one hand, it's nice to see how far Lilith has come in reconnecting with her true self. On the other hand, her goofiness can get a little annoying at times. On the one hand, we finally get to see Philip Wittebane, as well as the reveal that he is indeed Belos. On the other hand, it feels a little weird to have Luz unintentionally help Belos in such a lighthearted episode, given the significance it carries a few episodes later. And as other fans have pointed out, the reveal that Philip is Belos probably would have hit a little harder if they had saved it for Hollow Mind. Either way, it's still an episode I enjoy a lot, and I love the many bits of lore and world building sprinkled throughout.
What about all those hearts?
Oh, those are for me.
At number 22, we have Season 2, Episode 18, Labyrinth Runners. As with Edge of the World, this is kind of a fill-in-the-gap episode between Hollow Mind and O Titan, Where Art Thou? But I think I enjoyed this episode more because I love getting to see all the students at Hexside interact and work together. We get another episode focusing on Gus and illusion magic, and while I don't think it works quite as well as Through the Looking Glass Ruins, it's still an interesting direction to take. Of course, his ability to accidentally cast massively complex illusions while stressed does kind of come out of nowhere, but it's still a good way to showcase his inner struggles. I love getting to see Hunter interact with Gus and Willow again, as well as all the other students at Hexside. The scene where all of them team up against the Emperor's Coven was so much fun to watch. This was also a great episode for Willow and Amity, showing that while Amity really is trying to be a good friend, she still needs to acknowledge who Willow is now. We even get this fantastic shot.
Then how about just two of us?
Nice one.
Adrian Gray is a character I'm a bit more conflicted on. I initially really liked him before it was revealed that his plan is all a setup, which I know is the point, seeing as he's head of the Illusion Coven. But once his true nature is revealed, he just doesn't have that same entertainment value that many of the other Owl House villains do. Apart from that, this is an incredibly fun episode that did a good job juggling different characters, bringing them all together for an epic team-up.
People, let's have some fun!
And at number 21, we have Season 2, Episode 15, Them's the Breaks, Kid. This really does just feel like a standard episode of the Owl House, only now it's set 30 years in the past, but that's also kind of the episode's appeal. It's really cool to see all of the adult characters transported back to a time when they were in the same position as the young characters. This episode focuses on Ida recalling how she met Rain Whispers, and it makes for a really fun one-shot. Ida and Rain are so adorable in this episode, and they almost give Luz and Amity a run for their money. Almost. There are plenty other familiar faces we get to see more of. I like seeing Bump back when he was a vice principal and how he really does care about these kids. He may be strict when needed, but this episode makes perfectly clear that Hexside could do far far worse. Terra Snapdragon makes another appearance, and I absolutely love her in this episode. I mentioned before how I like villains with entertainment value, and wow, does she excel in that category. Some other details I like are that they finally gave young Lilith a new voice actor, the quick reveal that Alador and Darius used to be friends, and the final showdown turned dance with Ida and Rain. And of course, the big reveal that Rain has been faking their amnesia the entire time, and that they're working to stop Bellows from completing a draining spell. So while it is mainly a standard Owl House episode just starring a different group of characters, it's still incredibly fun with lots of amazing details. Alright, we made it through the first half of the list. Only 20 more episodes to go.
If Amity saw that, I saw that!
So kicking off the top half of the list, we finally shift gears back to Season 1 with Episode 3, I Was a Teenage Abomination. Now, my general method of ranking was to start at the bottom of the list and work my way up, asking myself which episodes I'd rather watch as I added something new to the list. And I often found that this was the episode where I needed to pause and think a bit before placing an episode any higher, because while there are other episodes that surpass it, I Was a Teenage Abomination is still one of my personal favorite episodes, and is special to me for several reasons. I feel like this is the episode where the show really clicks into place. The first two episodes are a little rough, hence why they ended up at the bottom of the list, and in this case it seems that third time's the charm. Luce begins to look and feel more consistent with how she's portrayed in the rest of the show, and she's a lot more likable as a result. This is also the episode where we meet Willow, Gus, Amity, and get our first glimpse at Hexside. That makes this episode special to go back and rewatch, seeing all these characters at the start of their journey. The premise of this episode is really fun, with Luce pretending to be an abomination and having to avoid getting caught. And while I love the character Amity grows to later on, she's a really entertaining bully in this episode, which again, makes it fun to go back and look at the person she used to be. The side plot with King isn't quite as interesting, but it's one I give a pass to because I like when the side plots are thematically connected to the main plot. King's bet with Ida helps her to realize that she needs to take Luce's training more seriously, and Luce learns to appreciate Ida more as a mentor. There may be other episodes that are objectively better, but this one will always be special to me.
I am not a pet!
He's a very good boy and the king of demons.
Next up at number 19, we have Season 1, Episode 5, Convention. I kept going back and forth between this one and Episode 3, but I think I settled on Convention because it has more emotional depth to it. Just like Episode 3, this episode was the first for a few things, exploring the Coven system, Ida and Lilith's relationship, and a glimpse into what makes Amity tick. Speaking of which, another great episode for Luce and Amity. As I've said, it's especially fun going back to their early interactions, knowing what their relationship will evolve into. But no matter what stage they're at, they always have fantastic chemistry, and all their interactions are entertaining and heartfelt. This is another case where the main and side plots did a good job of being thematically connected. Luce and Amity's rivalry complements Ida and Lilith's, almost as if the mentors are transferring their grudge onto their pupils. This leads to an amazing witches duel between Ida and Lilith, which was an early example of the animators getting to show off how good these duels could be. I'd say my only real nitpick with the episode is that it sets up a relationship between Amity and Lilith that's never explored again, but I suppose that's the fault of later episodes, not this one. In any case, Convention is a great episode that I love going back to rewatch.
A surprisingly peaceful domestic moment. When will it be ruined? There it is.
At number 18, we have Season 1, Episode 12, Adventures in the Elements. Look at that. Another Luce and Amity episode that I kept going back and forth on while trying to place it. I think the best way I can describe Adventures in the Elements is that it's a feel-good episode. The tone, the lighting, the animation, that's just the impression it all leaves on me. This episode gives more attention to the mentor-student relationship between Ida and Luce, and I like seeing how they bond through their training. We get to explore the nature of magic and making a connection with the island, resulting in one of the most beautiful sequences in the show where Luce finally figures out her second spell. But yeah, all the stuff with Luce and Amity is great, as usual, and it's cool to see them finally being friends. Makes it sadder when Amity gets mad at Luce and takes off without her. I like Luce and Amity teaming up to save everyone at the end, with both of them mastering their spells, ice and fire respectively. I don't really have anything to say about King's boot camp other than it being a fun side plot, but at least we get to end on this line from Hooty.
I will be haunted by my actions forever. Hoot hoot!
Ooh, a furry fruit. I'm gonna peel it.
What? What is happening?
Then at number 17, we have Season 1, Episode 15, Understanding Willow. I know this is like the 4th consecutive Amity episode on the list, but this will be the last one. For Season 1 anyway. Putting that aside, I like the idea of literally going into Willow's mind and seeing her memories up close. This provides a chance to finally learn what happened with her and Amity, as well as giving us another Lumity team-up. The scene where we finally see how Amity ended her friendship with Willow, only to learn it was because she was pressured by her parents, was really sad, but also heartwarming when the two are able to begin patching things up. And again, not too much to say about the side plot. It was pretty funny to see Ida and King compete for an interview, only to have it go to Hooty. Not your best move, Gus.
Here a hoot, there a hoot, somewhere else a hoot, hoot, hooty hoot, hoot!
Hola, Batata. Did you just call me a sweet potato? Yes.
Next at number 16 is Season 2, Episode 11, Follies at the Coven Day Parade. Okay. This is the last consecutive Luce and Amity episode for now, I promise. This is another special episode because it was the mid-season premiere, our first episode after having to wait months to see what came after the downer ending in Episode 10. But this is still a good episode in its own right. More cute Lumity moments, Ida trying to get through to Rain after the events of Ida's Requiem, and Luce finally having to face up to what happened with her mom last episode. There's plenty of great character moments, action, Hooty. Now, having the plot revolve around Kiki and her family problems isn't all that interesting, to be honest, but the other stuff more than makes up for it, and the end of the episode did its job in setting the stakes going forward.
Watching the ink dry is the best part.
At number 15, we have Season 2, Episode 3, Echoes of the Past. This is one of the best episodes for King, the one where we finally started getting some revelations about his past and where he came from. What I really like is that the episode stays focused on that. There's no side plots to cut away to, other than Ida having to catch up with the others, so all the attention can be given to exploring the mysterious castle King was born in. And what seals the deal for me is the revelation about how King and Ida met, and his talk with Luce afterwards. I have to praise Alex Hirsch's voice acting in these scenes. It feels so raw and genuine, and I can't give him enough credit for being able to convey so much emotion while staying in character. And that's not the only time he gets to shine either. I mean, look at this scene. He goes from normal Hooty to deep voice Hooty to doing whatever this is. I mean, how is he even doing this? How can one person have so much range in so little time? This is the level of voice acting I strive to achieve someday. Other things I like include Lilith and Hooty, who make a surprisingly good team and have some really adorable moments, and Luce discovering how to turn herself invisible. Significant, emotional, and elevated by exceptional performances, Echoes of the Past really helped get Season 2 off to a solid start.
Shut up.
Next at number 14 is Season 1, Episode 18, Agony of a Witch. I know a lot of fans would probably place this episode higher on the list, and I definitely understand why. The last 7 minutes of this episode are fantastic, and the ending is an absolute gut punch that perfectly sets up the season finale. I guess the reason I don't love it as much as other fans is that the first half of the episode just isn't as great by comparison. We do get a lot of other great stuff in the first half. Hooty taking down the Coven Scouts, finally seeing Belos in person, and some more backstory on the Boiling Isles. But the plot doesn't take a really dark turn until the last 7 minutes, so I don't feel the full weight of the episode until then. When it does though, oh man, this episode really is something special. Ida versus Lilith is one of the best animated scenes in the whole show, and we finally get the reveal that it was indeed Lilith that cursed Ida when they were young. And that final moment with Ida and Luce where she doesn't know if she'll ever come back or not, let me tell you, it took real effort not to cry. which I eventually failed at by the end of the episode. Just to reiterate, this is still a fantastic episode, just not one that I love as much as other fans do.
What?
Then at number 13 is Season 2, Episode 6, Hunting Palisman. Right off the bat, this episode has one of the strongest openings of the entire series. We get a wonderfully animated look at the 9 Coven heads, and a glimpse at the horror that awaits on the Day of Unity. Not to mention a look at Belos' cursed form, and what seems like a moment of vulnerability as he hints about the destruction of his family. This episode is similar to the first day in how much I relate to Luz's struggle. She's once again put in a position where she has to specify what she wants, but doesn't quite know the answer, forcing her to face some hard truths about her future as a witch. We're also introduced to Flapjack, aka Little Rascal, which leads Luz to finally seeing the Golden Guard without his mask. And I love the moment where Luz leans in and all the Lumity shippers collectively freaked out over a possible love triangle, but then we get a blunt reminder that this is Dana Terrace's story.
What? You!
All jokes aside, I really like seeing Luz and Hunter have to team up, learning more about each other and bringing out their respective strengths and weaknesses. This marked the beginning of Hunter's eventual redemption and getting to explore his character in greater detail. And since he got Little Rascal, Luz gets the chance to make her own Palisman. The mystery of what form it will take has yet to be solved, but I'm looking forward to finding out in Season 3.
Now I'm only scarred emotionally.
At number 12, we have Season 2, Episode 13, Any Sport in a Storm. Look at that, another Hunter episode. I seem to have a habit of ranking similar episodes together, but hey, what are you gonna do? I went back and forth between this one and Hunting Palisman, but just like with Labyrinth Runners, I think I settled on this one because it's more fun, and it gives the Hexside characters some much-needed screen time. I love seeing Hunter have to interact with people his own age for the first time, and how he has no idea what he's doing. He honestly gets some of my favorite lines in the show this episode.
Teens are probably into the same things as me, like authority, rules. I hear you get to sleep in till 6 a.m.
It was also great to finally get another Willow episode, as most fans felt she didn't get enough attention in the first half of Season 2. And this really was one of her best episodes, showing how far she's come since we first met her. As a bonus, we get a Lumity sideplot that's not only adorable, but offers a chance to address some of the fun and wild Owl House fan theories. I actually like how their quest for answers was resolved, and having them acknowledge how fun it is to make your own stories felt like a nice nod to the talented Owl House fan writers and artists. Of course, the biggest part of the episode is seeing Hunter stand up to Darius to save his new friends, where they reveal that there's actually more to Darius than we previously thought.
I had you all wrong.
But without a doubt, my favorite moment of the entire episode is the very end.
What?
Don't worry, kids. Mama's got a plan.
You're not our mom.
And at number 11, we have Season 2, Episode 7, Ida's Requiem. I'm sure many of you are calling for my head right now for not putting this in the top 10, especially since it was so close. And this is one of the most beautiful episodes of the entire series. The music, the gorgeous animation, Ida's fear of losing her kids, meeting Rain Whispers for the first time. This episode has so much going for it, so how could I not put it in the top 10? Well, we're about to get to the best of the best, which means not every great episode can make the cut. That just means there are 10 more amazing episodes left to talk about. So back to Ida's Requiem. This is one of the best episodes for Ida, obviously. It's wonderful to see how much she loves Luz and King, how far she's come as a mother to them both, and how she's now afraid at the possibility of losing them. We also get to meet one of the best additions to the show with Rain Whispers. They are an awesome new character, and I love all their scenes with Ida. We even get to see Katya again after her appearance way back in the pilot. The episode feels significant for having a rebel group actively fighting against the Emperor, and for raising the stakes by giving a little more information about the Day of Unity. And the last third of the episode is just incredible. Darius and Eber are also great new characters, and I liked getting to see the unique ways that they use their respective forms of magic. But what truly makes this episode special is, of course, Ida's Requiem. This music is so unbelievably beautiful, and the animation is just astounding. It really takes things to another level when you realize Ida and Rain are actually willing to sacrifice themselves to stop Belos. Even though they make it out alive, it's heartbreaking that Ida has to leave Rain behind because she can't do anything. And of course, Kiki has to show up and rub salt in the wound by sealing Rain away in some kind of magic prison. Still, we did manage to get a more heartwarming cry as it's revealed that King actually changed his name to King Clawthorn, solidifying Ida as his mom. I really do feel bad about leaving such an amazing episode out of the top 10, but that only means the best is yet to come. Alright then, we've made it to the final section, the absolute best of the best. Here are my picks for the top 10 best episodes of The Owl House.
Hable más lento, por favor? Aw, you remembered your lesson. But that wasn't Spanish, buddy.
Coming in at number 10, we have Season 2, Episode 16, Hollow Mine. Another episode about Luz and one other traveling through a mindscape, this time Belos himself. Once again, I love seeing Luz and Hunter have to team up, making their way through the Emperor's memories and giving us flashbacks along the way. The revelations about Belos being a liar are pretty obvious, and a lot of it is just giving more detail about what we already knew of his rise to power, but it's still cool to see. What really makes the episode work is how the characters react to all these memories. The story keeps getting worse and worse until we get to one of the most messed up scenes in the show, where Hunter discovers what remains of the previous Golden Guards. Then Belos shows up and decides that Hunter knows too much. I'll be honest, the first time I watched this episode, they really had me going for a minute that Hunter was gone for good. Like I said earlier, I do feel that the Belos' Philip reveal would have been more impactful if they had saved it for this episode, but it's still a really big moment for Luz. And we still get the reveal that Belos is actually a witch hunter, and that he believes he's saving humanity from evil. I like how Luz calls him evil, and we get a throwback to one of her own lines from Season 1.
Can't reason with crazy.
Well, can't reason with crazy.
One aspect of the episode I really appreciate is how pretty much all of Philip's backstory is shown to us in the background through paintings. It's nice to see that the writers trust the audience to pay attention and put the pieces together, especially in a show primarily aimed at kids. I do hope we get some kind of flashback for Philip in Season 3, but this was still a creative way to give us the information. In the end, Hollow Mind is a very engaging episode and serves as a big turning point for Luz and Hunter.
And if he's not happy, I'll never make my way into Amity's heart. I mean, make a portal back home. We have to go.
Next at number 9, we have Season 2, Episode 8, Knock Knock Knockin' on Hootie's Door. This episode actually made the number 1 spot back when I did my top 10 Owl House episodes video, and for good reason. It really manages to exemplify everything that I love about the Owl House. Funny, heart-wrenching, dark, beautiful, and doing justice for all of our main characters. I'm impressed that the writers were able to take what could have been 2 or 3 episodes and seamlessly blending it all together in one. They took the formula for Once Upon a Swap and perfected it this time around. We get segments for King, Ida, and Luz, all centered around Hootie trying to help them, which means he gets some nice character development as well. King and Ida both manage to unlock new powers, and Luz and Amity finally get together after all this time. That alone is a big deal, but I also appreciate when a show spends a good deal of time shipping 2 characters and then actually gives us time to see them as a couple once they get together. The entire scene with them having to sit through Hootie's tunnel of love was unreal. I could not stop laughing and freaking out. I could keep going on and on with what I like about this episode, but to summarize, it's incredibly fun and perfectly manages to balance everything I love about this show.
How's my disco ball?
Nauseous.
Great.
Just keep it up for 36 more hours.
At number 8, we have Season 1, Episode 16, Enchanting Grom Fright. Back when I was reacting to Season 1, this is the episode that everybody was waiting for me to get to. And even though I'd had some of the episodes spoiled thanks to this image being everywhere online, it was still well worth the wait. Enchanting Grom Fright is a really special episode. It perfectly captures that feeling of magic and excitement of going to prom for the first time, but also the crippling fear and anxiety that goes with it. That made this episode the perfect avenue to focus on the fears of each character, so of course Grom is literally a monster that feeds on fear. Luz really gets to shine in this episode, having to face her fear about her mom learning the truth, but still going out of her way to help Amity with her problems. This mixture of selflessness and self-denial is why Luz has always been such an interesting character to me. The high points for this episode include Luz and Amity's talk right before the Grom duel, which is such a touching moment with a beautiful rendition of the end credits theme to match. Another is Luz's duel with Grom, where she gets to use cool combos, but the most shocking part was where it changes into her mom, and even though I should have known better, I honestly wasn't sure whether it had actually brought Luz's mom the first time I watched it. And of course, the biggest moment, Luz and Amity teaming up to take down Grom by sharing a dance. I really like how they reveal what Amity's greatest fear is in this scene. I assumed that it was going to be a fear of disappointing her parents, which would have been similar to Luz and built off the previous episode, but no, it was something as simple yet effective as being afraid to ask out someone you like. Amity already spent so much of the season trying to be the best, so it was a nice reminder that even the strongest people can have this kind of insecurity too. But yeah, back to the dance, it's incredible. More fantastic music, some of the best animation of the season, and it's so cool how they seamlessly blend magical attacks into a dance. All the characters get a really nice moment to celebrate their victory, but I do like that the episode ends on a bittersweet note. Again, it captures that feeling of post-prom sadness, where you're completely worn out but unable to sleep because you can't stop thinking about everything that happened. Not to mention that Luz still has a ways to go with her mom, but at least she's finally able to share a bit of truth with her. This was also where we got the mystery of who's sending the letters to Luz's mom, leading to a whole bunch of creepy Luz fan theories. With so many great moments and an extremely relatable premise, Enchanting Grom Fright cemented itself as one of the show's best episodes from that point on.
Were we just having a tea party in Animal Jammies?
What happens in the montage stays in the montage.
Then at number 7, we have Season 1, Episode 17, Wing It Like Witches. This episode originally took second place back in my top 10 Owl House episodes video, and while things have shifted around a bit, this is still one of my personal favorites. The biggest appeal of this episode is that it's so much fun from start to finish, which makes it one of my go-tos when I feel like rewatching some episodes. I also like when the main and side plots feel connected, which was pretty easy since both revolve around a Grudgeby match, both of them highly entertaining. Wing It Like Witches does a great job including all of the characters and having their respective arcs come full circle by the end. Speaking of which, this episode also has one of the best endings of the entire series. Thank you, montage. Everything wraps up nicely, there are plenty of fun and adorable moments, and all of our characters are together at the Owl House, topped off by some insanely good music. It may have been knocked down a few spots since my last ranking, but Wing It Like Witches is still one of the most enjoyable episodes of the show.
"30 years old? I remember seeing this in theaters."
Yes, you're old. Who cares?
At number 6 is Season 2, Episode 9, Eclipse Lake. Here's another episode I love because of how enjoyable it is, though there's plenty more it does right. We finally get to see what Belos looks like under the mask, and while it's not quite as shocking as we would expect, it's still a cool reveal. This is also a great episode for Hunter, showing how desperate he is to please Belos, which gives plenty of opportunities for him to be both a villain and a sympathetic character. I guess Ida said it best.
A bad but sad boy.
But we all know that Amity is the one who really gets to shine this episode. It's nice to see her taking a more active role at the Owl House and getting a chance to interact with other characters more than usual. And even though you want to see more of her and Luz now that they're finally together, I actually like that Luz sits out most of the episode. It feels refreshing to give the other characters a chance to go on a mission. Plus we get what some fans have dubbed Loopy Luz.
Whoa! It's like I have snakes for arms.
Apart from how fun the episode is, I think it does some truly exceptional character work with Amity and Hunter. Her speech about finding people who won't make you feel worthless was a really nice moment, and even though she wasn't able to get through to him, it does lead to what is arguably the best witches duel in the entire series. The animation is just so fluent in this scene, and it may be redundant to say it at this point, but I once again have to praise the excellent soundtrack. If I had to name one gripe with the episode, I'd say it's that Amity's fear of disappointing Luce could have been built on something more tangible. Like, maybe Luce being sick makes her snap at Amity when she wouldn't have otherwise, or Amity sees how upset Luce is and doesn't want to be the one who disappoints her. Then again, I suppose that's also the point of the episode. It should be obvious that Amity doesn't need to prove herself to Luce, and that nothing Hunter does will ever be enough for Belos. But they're both stuck in their current mindsets until Amity is the one who breaks out of it at the end. And this Lumity moment is absolutely adorable no matter what leads up to it.
Amity! I'm so glad my awesome girlfriend is okay.
Me too.
The episode even ends with a nice moment for Hunter and Flapjack, reminding us that there may be hope for him yet. Incredibly enjoyable, with good character writing and sick animation to match, Eclipse Lake really is the best that the first half of Season 2 had to offer.
So the blabber serum should get your ex to tell you about your other ex?
Warden Wrath is not my king. Can you stop telling people that?
Making our way into the top 5, we have Season 2, Episode 14, Reaching Out. I love this episode. Easily one of the best for both Luce and Amity. Just like Enchanting Grom Fright, we start with Luce being stressed over something related to her mom. Unlike that episode, we don't really know what it is, but we do know that it's something pretty serious. So instead, we spend most of the episode focusing on Amity, trying to win the Bonesboro Brawl as a way to connect to her dad. Gee, wonder if that'll come back later. And even with the focus on Luce, Amity, the action, and a side plot with Ida, they still manage to work in a bit of character development for Ed. The show's writers will never cease to amaze me. This really may be the best Lumity episode of the entire show. Of course, we all love the fun and adorable moments between them, but this episode highlights the real reason they're such a good couple. They actually know how to support each other. That's not to say we don't still get a plethora of cute moments, but we get just as many with them offering genuine support, challenging each other, and sharing one of the most intense scenes of the series. We'd all been wondering where Luce's dad was, hoping for some other explanation as to why he wasn't around, but this episode confirmed that he has indeed passed away. Luce trying to pass it off as no big deal, Amity's horrified reaction, and the subtle yet emotional performance from Sarah Nicole Robles all comes together to make the scene feel so raw and genuine. I have nothing but respect for Amity and Luce in these moments, seeing just how much they care and how they pick themselves up to help the other. The last few minutes are filled with too many amazing character moments to count. Ed and Ida, okay, yeah, Blight Brother was a good call. Amity's talk with her dad, and of course Luce and Amity's final scene, which is honestly too beautiful for me to try to put into words. Brilliant writing, performances, music, animation, all of it. The heartfelt story and exceptional execution make Reaching Out one of the most memorable Owl House episodes.
Perhaps I could offer you dark deeds carried out in your name. Ah, no!
Next at number 4, we have Season 2, Episode 19, O Titan, Where Art Thou? The main purpose of this episode is to give some space and build up before the season finale, and I think that's actually why I love it so much. Each of the characters, King in particular, have so much to process going into the finale, so giving them time to explore that by going on one last adventure makes perfect sense. It allows you to really feel the building tension as we near the end of the season, which makes the next 2 episodes more satisfying. As for the main plot, it's cool how they bring things full circle to the start of the show by having Luz and Ida go on a heist to steal something for King. And I love that the crew gets to take a jab at Disney for cutting them short.
Maybe if we had time for 20 more adventures, but we don't.
Speaking of which, Oh my god, I cannot believe we got a Stephen King episode. I know Steve had already become a popular character from his brief appearances, so to see him get his own episode was kinda mind-blowing. But of course, Luz and Ida are the real heart of this episode. Luz is so desperate to help Ida, and Ida is so desperate to make sure Luz is safe. This aspect of their relationship is what I've always found so fascinating, and even if it puts them at odds, it's still great to see how much they've grown to care about each other. Luz and Ida fighting only to be captured and separated was such a dark and powerful moment. That is one nitpick I have with the end of the episode, because this look on Luz's face really could have led to an ending of hopelessness before the finale. But I do understand that the episode needed to end the way it did for the finale to work, and seeing how Luz is in this moment does make it really satisfying when she realizes they have a chance after all. We finally get the official reveal that Darius and Eber are working with Rain, which we basically knew at this point, but it's a nice moment anyway. All our heroes are together, they have a plan, and everything the series has built towards is finally coming to fruition. O Titan, Where Art Thou does its job setting up the finale while still having a genuinely good story for each of the main characters. Alright, here we are, the top 3. Absolute best of the best. It's worth mentioning again how hard it was to rank these last few episodes in particular, and that they're all great in their own way. But only one can reign supreme, so let's see who ends up taking the top spot.
I don't care what Bellos is up to. Because today, I'm saving Ida.
So coming in at number 3, we have Season 1, Episode 19, Young Blood, Old Souls. The Season 1 finale, the episode that took the number 1 spot back when I ranked Season 1, and after all this time, it looks like it's worked its way back to that position. I cannot tell you how much I love this episode. Agony of a Witch may have ended on a dark note, but This was the episode where I felt the full weight of what this show was capable of. The darker tone and higher stakes immediately elevate this episode, and the season-long payoff gives us some of the most satisfying moments of the show. The gradual build-up to Ida's petrification, Luz versus Bellos, and of course the episode has so many scenes that have you bawling your eyes out by the end. Ida's final goodbye to Luz probably hit me the hardest. It was both one of the most beautiful and one of the most heartbreaking moments between the two in the entire show, and immediately leads into an epic fight with Luz and Lilith. But if I had to pick just one moment that I love the most, without a doubt it's when Luz destroys the portal. I could not believe it the first time I saw this episode. My jaw was literally hanging open. The fact that Luz would willingly destroy her only way home, fully knowing that she may never be able to return, and doing so to save the people she cares about, elevates her character so much more for me. It demonstrates how much she's grown over the course of the season. To me, this episode is a true turning point, signaling to the audience that things will never be the same. Our heroes manage to escape, Ida and Lilith split the curse, and Luz begins teaching Ida how to use glyphs. The student has become the teacher, bringing Season 1 full circle quite nicely. Young Blood, Old Souls is a fantastic finale, capping off the first season with a bang and reminding us that the best is still to come. Alright, this is it. For our runner-up, at number 2, we have Season 2, Episode 20, Clouds on the Horizon, Part 1 of the season finale, and what a start it was. That honestly did make it hard to decide between this and the number 1 spot, as both are great episodes. In any case, this episode was the beginning of the end. So much of what had been building throughout the season, really the entire series, comes to a head here. Everyone coming together to stop the Day of Unity, Luz, Ida, and King sharing a final moment together, which is a lot sadder knowing how the season ends. Luz, Willow, Gus, and Hunter all teaming up to go save Amity and stop Odalia. And no, I haven't forgotten the moment that made us all scream in unison. Luz and Amity finally share their first kiss. Not only is the scene beautiful, not only does it feel earned, not only is the animation gorgeous, but it's a wonderful moment of representation that likely meant a great deal to many LGBT fans of the show. But moving on with the plot, it's great to see Alador finally come to his senses and team up with the others. However, in stark contrast, we get the shocking reveal that Odalia actually knew the Emperor's real plan the whole time. We all knew how horrible Odalia was was before, but this was the episode that elevated her to straight up evil. And while it was thoroughly satisfying to see them all beat her, I hope Amity gets another chance to take her down next season. Of course, the episode does choose to end on a cliffhanger, making us sit through the eerie end credits that remind me of another finale that aired around the same time. In any case, Clouds on the Horizon is a fantastic start to the season finale. How could it possibly get better than this? Well, at number 1, the honor of best episode of The Owl House goes to Season 2, Episode 21, King's Tide.
I play it every day.
I play it every hour.
The episode that the entire show had built to, the true colors of the Owl House. My fellow Amphibia fans will know exactly what I mean. King's Tide is emotional, epic, calming, heartfelt, beautiful, and tragic all at once. It takes everything I love about this show and dials it up to 11. Where do I even start? This finale is just the perfect culmination for all of the character arcs we've gotten up until now. Putting the focus on King before his eventual sacrifice, Ida and Ray nearly sacrificing everything to stop the draining spell, Luz and all her friends fighting Belos. But before that, I loved the scene with Luz and Philip. These two have such a great dichotomy, with Philip's twisted sense of morality and Luz's unwavering dedication to her friends. The way she manages to trick him like a total chump feels so satisfying after seeing her nearly get petrified. And Belos isn't even the biggest threat of the episode. I had wondered what exactly was supposed to happen in Season 3 with the Day of Unity already over, but we get that answer in the form of the Collector being released. When he does finally show up in the flesh, wow, what an entrance. A seemingly small and harmless child who sees everything as a game, but then suddenly splats Belos into a wall like it was nothing. And his theme is so cool, with that slight offbeat perfectly capturing the Collector's chaotic nature. If that weren't enough to show how powerful this kid is, the dude literally boops the moon out of the way. Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever panicked during a finale as much as I did the last few minutes of the episode. Oh my god, the whole place is coming down. Oh wait, there's a way out. Oh my god, they'll never make it. Oh wait, Luz is holding it together. Oh no, Luz is gonna get left behind. No, wait, King, what are you doing?
No! King!
Just wow. As epic and heart-pounding as all of that was, the looks on everyone's faces are what really make the episode stick the landing. Luz realizing that all of her friends will now have to go through being trapped like she did, the others realizing they can't go home, all of them knowing that they can't help any of their loved ones or even see if they're okay. This is such a short scene, but one that's able to convey so much with absolutely no dialogue. I will say that having the Amphibia Easter egg right after, while awesome, was not timed well at all, as it momentarily takes fans of that show out of the initial tension. I understand why it was there, since Amphibia wrapped up around the same time, and it makes sense that Camila would pay attention to articles like this. Still, the show at hand should take precedence. That aside, the season ends with the moment we'd been waiting so long to see.
Hey, Mom. I'm back.
Too bad we have to wait until next season for the rest. But man, what a way to get us invested for the Season 3 premiere, am I right? In the end, King's Tide is a triumph in the realm of animation, an epic conclusion to the story so far that has us feeling every emotion, desperate to see what comes next. For all of these reasons, I can confidently say that King's Tide is the best episode of The Owl House so far. And with that, we've reached the end. That's my ranking for all 40 episodes of The Owl House. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. This is a video that was really hard to make and took a lot of time and effort, but I'm glad I had a chance to reflect on the entire show before the start of its final season. Getting to talk about this show with all of you helps make the experience even more special, and I really hope you enjoyed getting to hear all my thoughts on this wonderful series. So now I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. What did you think of my Owl House ranking? Which placements do you agree or disagree with? Whatever it is, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comments. And don't forget to share your favorite episodes of the Owl House. Comment your top 5, top 10, or even your ranking of all 40 if you're brave enough. Also be sure to share how excited you are for Season 3, as well as any thoughts or predictions you may have. And with that, I'll bring this video to a close. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for The Owl House Season 3.